Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahushai, Bahasham Racha Kudash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And we have some pretty interesting news today. Just earlier today, as you can see here, this was updated on 11:55 Eastern Time that a U.S. fighter jet was shot down in Iran, and one crew member was reported rescued, which they're saying, some other sources are saying that they haven't been rescued just yet. Like it's some sources are saying they are, some are saying they're not. But as of right now, what you have going on is, a search and rescue mission that their reports are saying is happening in Iran right now. Via certain, really aerial. They're really starting aerial, looking for this crew, okay, that was whose jet was shot down, okay, and it's interesting because as before we actually read this here, I have another headline here, which is from Global Surveillance, right? Breaking Newsmax reports that a U.S. Black Hawk helicopter may have been hit during the search and rescue operations in Iran, as it was last seen trailing smoke while crossing from Iran into Iraq. Okay, so things are already picking up. Let's see what they are. They're going to use this as an excuse to go in there and say, oh, yeah, we got to go rescue this crew. And then the ones we sent in there, they got smoked. And now that's not enough. We got to send. Hey, we'll see. But it's definitely picking up. It wasn't by coincidence that you had, Trump come out and give that speech on April 1st, which it was like April Fool's, right? People thought he was about to say something about the war ending and peace talks and progress on that, but you're starting to see that's not the case. In fact, that's far from the case, as just today, just a couple minutes ago, we have here, at least as it's being reported, Iran rejects all U.S. demands and refuses to meet with American officials in Islamabad, which I believe is in Pakistan, because they were supposed to be brokering this being like the intermediary, right, for these peace talks and so on. So you can see now it's like the complete opposite, right, of Iran is begging for a deal and we're so close, things are going good. No, it's just to buy time. You need to understand that this isn't something that they want to end anytime soon, and the Iranians have already figured that out. Okay, for them, this isn't about I'm trying to control the markets, or I'm trying to play with the minds of the investors. They're trying to survive it, right? On the other hand, with the U.S. and Israel, this is a plan that they are executing. So let's read a little bit of this. It says, U.S. fighter jet shot down in Iran. One crew member reported rescued. The New York Times has cited U.S. and Israeli officials who have given confirmation that a U.S. fighter jet was downed and that a major rescue operation is underway, with the fate of the plane's crew unclear. The fate of the plane's crew was unclear as American officials scrambled to mount a search and rescue operation before Iran could get to any survivors, said the U.S. and Israeli officials, who spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss military operations. Now, on the other hand, the Iranian state media said basically they're encouraging everybody to say, hey, be quick and try to, if you see them, if they're in your area, capture them. That'll teach you not to come into their territory. The situation creates a military and diplomatic challenge for the United States, as President Trump has threatened in recent days to bombard Iran back to the Stone Ages. Over the past 24 hours, the United States and Iran have been trading attacks on military and civilian infrastructure in the region. And this is where it starts to get, more intense, because now you're not just targeting military bases, you're now hitting civilian infrastructure. That means that civilian casualties are going to be amounting. All right, they're going to be amassing, they're going to go higher. If you hit a bridge and there's cars on it, what do you think is going to happen to the people driving the cars? right? So it's really just another escalation. The U.S. jet was an F-15E, U.S. officials said, which has a standard crew of two and not one of the stealth fighters of more recent design. Just days ago, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said Iran's air defenses were so degraded that the United States was sending B-52 bombers over the country. The F-15E is much smaller, faster, and more agile, making it a tougher target. Well, then I wonder how they were able to down that. You don't say. So this is what you have going on over here. Once again, unconfirmed. There's some initial reports from Iran indicating successful targeting of an American helicopter during search operations of downed F-15 fighter jet earlier today. And what's today, April 3rd? So April is looking like it's going to be a pretty interesting month leading into May. After this is in the meantime, Iran's parliament speaker and the man who appears to be the de facto running the day-to-day of the country is trolling the United States. So this is what he says. After defeating Iran 37 times in a row, this brilliant no strategy war they started has now been downgraded from regime change to, hey, can anyone find our pilots, please? Wow, what incredible progress. Absolute geniuses. Next we have here, Iranian farmers were shooting at American search and rescue helicopters with rifles in a desperate attempt to down them. But according to CNN's guests, perhaps Iranians helped the fighter pilot because they're happy that he's there. Let's take a look.
Thing in Iraq and sort of this same thing in Iraq and Afghanistan as well. If you're going to be picked up by somebody who is going to turn you over to the Iranian, forces that are going to use you and capture you, or is the population happy that you're there and want to help you? That we don't know. And so anybody that gets shot down over that space is having to deal with that uncertainty. Sort of this same thing in Iraq and
that's very interesting. Uncertainty, huh? You don't know that the country you went and bombed, and you're continuing to bomb, and you've hit their civilian infrastructure, you've hit their bridge. The people there have a nationalistic spirit. You killed their Ayatollah, right? But you don't know, you're not sure if one of the U.S. Pilots who crashes on their land is maybe they're happy that he's there. Oh, wow. That's interesting, huh? Anyway, let's move on. So we took a look at this already. I mentioned this earlier, right? Iran unwilling to meet U.S. negotiators in Pakistan. In fact, they have rejected negotiations. They said they don't want to meet. They reject the U.S. Your demands they're not even something they're trying to consider. So, take a hike. It says here, as Trump says, a little more time to open Hormuz. But wait, just a few days ago, he said, he might be willing to leave without opening the strait. So do you start to understand that there's actually a psychological operation, a psyop going on the masses of the people. That's what the speeches are about. That's what the mini press conferences are about. That's what the little clips here when he says this and he says that. That's what that is about. Okay, it's misdirection. They don't have intent on stopping, as you can see. I can see it. So it's gonna escalate. It's gonna start drawing in those regional powers, and you will see. So it says here, talks at dead end as Trump says a little more time to open Hormuz. Trump, U.S. needs quote unquote a little more time to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. So I guess the 2 to 3 weeks ain't really 2 to 3 weekend anymore, is it? While floating the prospect of seizing oil amid potential island and ground campaign, Washington Street Journal reports indirect talks at dead end. Not at a dead end no more. Iran and Hezbollah fire 140 plus rockets during Jewish Passover, which happened to be on the 1st. Interesting. French-owned vessel becomes first Western-linked European ship to transit Hormuz. Iran targets Gulf infrastructure, including a Kuwaiti desalination plant. Let's take a look at this dead-end part here. So it says, given the pace of tit-for-tat airstrikes and escalation against infrastructure, in Iran across the Gulf, as well as in Israel, this is not surprising. The current round of efforts by regional countries led by Pakistan to reach a ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran has reached a dead end, mediators said Friday. Iran has officially told mediators it isn't willing to meet U.S. officials in Islamabad in the coming days, and that U.S. demands are unacceptable, the mediators said. So there's that. Okay, there's that. What do we have next here? Now, this is also pretty interesting, considering the senior Iranian official involved in reaching out to Vance, or DJ Vance, was severely wounded in an airstrike. Isn't that interesting? A top Iranian official who was involved in diplomatic outreach and indirect talks or messaging with the United States and Pakistani mediators was reportedly critically wounded in a U.S.-Israeli strike. Kamal Karazi, an 81-year-old senior advisor to Tehran and former foreign minister, lost his wife in the Wednesday strike on his home, state media has said. Do you think that after this, he's interested in having peace? Do you think they are interested in having peace? Their mindset is literally like, we're dealing with madmen. You can't talk peace with a madman. And this is a perfect example of Psalms 55 and 21. The words of his mouth were smoother than butter, yet war was in his heart. Oh yeah, let's meet, let's have peace, but you're escalating your attacks. You're using more provocative attacks now that you're discussing peace than you were before you started discussing peace. Look at what they do. Listen to what they say, but look at what they do. Okay. Karazi chairs Iran's Strategic Council in Foreign Relations and has been viewed as a potential back-channel negotiator involving Islamabad, but now he's been hospitalized with serious injuries, state media has also said. We have seen what looks like an assassination attempt against the former foreign minister, Kamal Karazi. We don't know why he's been targeted. He has been gravely wounded and his wife was killed. Iranian officials described to Mehr news agency that Karazi, if I'm saying that right, was overseeing outreach to Pakistan tied to a possible meeting with U.S. President J.D. Vance. A potential Vance trip to Pakistan was initially reported as possibly being in the works late last month. Yeah, you can kiss that goodbye. So now it says here, but Middle East Eye has reported that Karazi was not seeing much room for diplomacy as U.S.-Israeli actions escalate to attacks on Iranian infrastructure and energy. How do you have diplomacy and you're blowing their shit up? Like, yo, how does that make sense? He told CNN in March, I don't see any room for diplomacy anymore because Donald Trump has been deceiving others and not keeping with his promises. And we experienced this in 2 times of negotiations, that while we were engaged in negotiation, they struck us. So why should you do it a 3rd time? There's a saying, fool me 1 time, shame on you. I think this was J. Cole. He had it in his song. Fool me 2 times or fool me twice, can't put the blame on you. But I forgot how it's supposed to go. Maybe it's supposed to go, fool me 1 time, shame on you. Fool me twice, then shame on me. Something like that, right? But you get the point. How many times will you let yourself be fooled? And they're letting you know, yeah, that's not happening again. If he succumbs to his wounds, Karazi would be the latest senior Iranian official killed since the war began. So, down here it says some analysts and pundits have accused Israel in particular of trying to sabotage any U.S.-Iran talks. as the Netanyahu government wants to see complete regime collapse in the Islamic Republic. Look, when you're dealing with the state of Israel, right? When you're dealing with them, they don't let shit go. They don't say, "Oh, we want to do this, but we'll settle for this." That's not how it works. That's not how it works. They didn't spend the last decades preparing and orchestrating things. All those events they've had in the Middle East, they were calculated. Okay? They didn't spend the last few decades preparing all that up until this last part to turn around and say, yeah, we'll settle for whatever it is. That's not how it works. What's also interesting happening here on the U.S. side of things, it says Hegseth ousts chief of the army as Iran war persists. There's this, as it's worded here, a Pentagon shakeup, okay, under Trump, where a lot of people, as you've seen, are being replaced, removed, and you have to wonder why, right? This really started after this intensification of this Iran war. So you can see the sentiment of majority of people is we don't want this. So is it by coincidence that all of a sudden now they're being replaced? Let's read this here. It says here, as on Thursday, Pete Hegseth has dismissed Army Chief of Staff General Randy George, asking him to step down into early retirement. The move is unusual, given this is the head of the Army, and the United States is past the 1 month mark in Trump's Operation Epic Fury. You're in the middle of this operation and you're having him step down. I wonder why. Because they know the next phase is going to be something intense. They can't have somebody that's on the fence or somebody that's not down, that's not a war hawk, in this position. A reason hasn't been given as to what amounts to General George being effectively fired. But you can put two and two together and see that this is likely due to the mindset, the attitude that they want for going into this time, right? As things escalate. You have here Russia, okay? Russian embassy outraged after U.S.-Israeli strikes damage Orthodox church in Tehran. The Russian embassy in Tehran has issued an angry denunciation of Wednesday U.S.-Israeli airstrikes, which damaged a Russian Orthodox church and an adjacent nursing home. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, the embassy statement further underscored that the tragedy happened during a sacred week of the Christian calendar. We note that St. Nicholas Cathedral was damaged during Great Lent and ahead of one of the main religious holidays, Easter. Due to the military recklessness of the United States and Israel, the Orthodox community in Iran is unable to visit the church, the diplomatic mission wrote on Telegram. Let's see what we have here. So they're pretty upset about that, but once again, it's a gradual escalation. Okay, and eventually it'll get to the point where these nations will be drawn in. Why? Because it's prophecy. Okay. Lastly, you have your Oracle's Dubai data center reportedly hit as Iran expands attack on AI infrastructure. And why is this important? This is important because the Iranians did say, they showed a list. Google was on the list, Amazon was on the list of these tech companies that they're going to be attacking. I believe they gave a deadline of April 6th or so, but them hitting these data centers is letting you know they're not bluffing, and that is going to have an effect on you. If you've been paying attention, prices are already going up. Okay, prices are already going up, and now you're having an escalation. And what day is today? Friday. If you notice, a lot of these happen towards the end of the week, and then on the weekend, and then the markets are in disarray come Monday. Okay, but all this is happening. And it's moving very, very quick. Okay, this is Romans 13:11. And that knowing the time, that now it is high time to awake out of sleep. For now is our salvation nearer than when we believed. So we're seeing these things and it's looking close, but it's even nearer than when we believed. because the Most High is orchestrating all of this meticulously, all right? And he's controlling the pace. So you can definitely see that things are picking up, and they're going to intensify more and more and more. And before you know it, if we're still allowed to be doing lessons, we'll be talking about the active implementation of the MOTB. So I'm going to end it here. Lord willing, that was edifying and informative to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.